The movie opens with Kang as he strolls through serene rose fields, his fingers brushing the petals gently. As Kang picks a rose, his gaze shifts to a woman standing in the distance near a farmhouse, stirring memories of home, family, and a life he may have once known. Suddenly, the peaceful scene is shattered by the sound of shouting, pulling Kang out of his daydream and back to a more chaotic reality. Fast cuts reveal Kang's intense battle with Ant-Man from the ending of Quantumania, where he's driven dangerously close to the multiversal engine core. Kang's once confident expression turns to one of shock as he realizes his impending fate. He is engulfed by the core's energy, his body distorting and shrinking as he is drawn into the chaotic and infinite realms beyond. As Kang plummets through the multiversal engine core, his body begins contracting rapidly, losing all sense of scale and cohesion as he falls deeper into the multiverse blender. His form turns into an ethereal silhouette, surrounded by a dizzying array of colors and lights. He's hurled through the chaos of alternate realities, each one more bizarre and incomprehensible than the last. The kaleidoscope of visuals overwhelms him as he screams in agony, unable to process the rapid, disorienting shifts. Eventually, Kang is hurled out of the multiverse and into the Beyond Zone, where he finds himself hurtling through a dark vortex. As he descends further, the light shifts in and out, creating a visual representation of a four-dimensional rabbit hole, constantly flickering between light and dark, almost as if the space itself is speaking to him. Kang's desperate struggle to hang on to the nothingness around him grows more intense as he continues to plunges. The sensation of speed is blinding at first, but soon, Kang slows and eventually he comes to a stop and lands hard in the eerie quiet of this dimension. Kang is surrounded by swirling energy, chaotic shapes, and colors that defy explanation, amplifying his sense of isolation and confusion. As he floats in the silence, the energy occasionally takes form before dissipating back into the void. His eyes close in a moment of vulnerability as he quietly whispers a name, Ravana. His voice carries a deep sense of longing and regret, echoing in the vast emptiness of the strange dimension, disconnected from everything he once knew. In the chaotic realm known as the Nexus of All Realities, the Watchers, led by Watu, confront Immortus and the Council of Kangs, who have come to assert their dominance over the multiverse. Using their immense powers, the Watchers manage to freeze the Kang fleet in stasis, holding them at bay. Immortus, calm and authoritative, sits at the head of the table with his lieutenants, the eager to please Ramatut and the skeptical Centurion. Watu warns Immortus of the consequences of the Council's actions, urging him to reconsider before they destroy everything. However, Immortus dismisses these warnings, asserting that the multiverse can only be saved through his divine rule. The Council of Kangs retaliates, unleashing a devastating time-warping blast that shatters the Watchers' defenses and undoes their control over the fleet. Immortus, using a temporal rift, banishes Watu to the edges of time, overpowering the Watchers and erasing them from existence. As Immortus stands victorious, he coldly dismisses Ramatut's quest for approval and reveals his total control over all destinies. The Centurion, still doubtful about Immortus' true motives, expresses concern, but Immortus chillingly asserts that fear is what keeps them alive. With the Watchers gone, the Council of Kangs prepares for battle, unfreezing their warships and setting their sights on Earth 616 to destroy the Avengers and retrieve Shang-Chi's 10 rings and Ms. Marvel's Negabands, relics of immense power from the previous multiversal war that could reshape reality and rid the Multiverse of all heroes and mutants as they pose a threat to the Kangs. As the Nexus of All Realities falls into disarray, time and reality begin to slowly fracture. Loki's voiceover reflects on the prophecy from He Who Remains, warning that the multiverse will collapse. Yggdrasil, the tree holding the multiverse together, flickers, symbolizing Loki's role as the god of time. The image of burning timelines and crumbling realities underscores the chaos. Meanwhile, at the TVA, Mobius and B-15 walk through the headquarters, concerned about the growing crisis. TVA agents analyze data on Kang variant patterns, preparing for the battle ahead. Loki's voiceover grows darker, warning that the Council of Kangs will destroy the multiverse, leaving it as nothing more than dust. His gaze shifts to potential anchor beings/heroes: Wolverine, Deadpool, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, Nick Cage's Ghost Rider, and the Fantastic Four family, including a young Franklin Richards, who may be the last hope to save the multiverse. At the TVA, preparations for the impending collapse are underway. The Fantastic Four and TVA are constructing a space raft/ark to gather anchor beings from across the multiverse before it is too late. As Loki watches the timelines shift and crumble, panic sets in, and he realizes time is running out. With regret and fear, he watches the destruction of the multiverse unfold, ending with a haunting reflection on the uncertainty of their future as the screen fades to black. Main title roles: Avengers, the Kang Dynasty. Scott Lang wakes up in a cold sweat, haunted by visions of Kang's twisted face and prophetic words. Struggling with PTSD, he clutches a photo of his daughter, Cassie, for comfort, but the dread lingers. As he paces his room in panic, he attempts to reach out to Happy Hogan and Sam Wilson, but both calls go unanswered, deepening his sense of isolation and guilt. In a state of desperation and paranoia, Scott leaves a voicemail for Happy Hogan. He expresses frustration at not being able to reach the Avengers, referencing his past heroics, including saving the universe and battling Thanos. Scott reveals he's been struggling with PTSD, haunted by Kang's face and voice, and is even taking a break from hope, unsure how to cope with the overwhelming psychological toll. Scott Lang, feeling isolated and defeated, pleads for a call back, but after ending the call, he slumps against the wall, overwhelmed by the emptiness of his current life. He looks at a photo of his daughter, Cassie, which brings a brief sense of comfort, hearing her reassuring voice in his mind. Despite his past as a hero, Scott feels forgotten and burdened by the looming threat of Kang's prophecy, the weight of which consumes him in the cold silence of his own thoughts. At Empire State University, Peter and Miles sit near the back of the classroom, barely spring attention. Peter teases Miles about his unconventional method of stopping a robbery the night before. Miles had used a clipboard and his webbing, calling it paperwork justice, to prevent the crime. Peter jokes that he prefers a simpler approach: punching criminals and avoiding the paperwork. Despite their banter, there's an underlying tension with Peter that we cannot yet place. The mood shifts when their teacher calls on Peter, who is caught off guard by the question and weighed down by his thoughts, freezes. The pressure of the moment intensifies as the class waits, some growing impatient. Sensing Peter's discomfort, Miles offers a quiet, supportive encouragement. Peter manages to snap out of his fog, delivers the answer with a weak example, and forces a smile. His classmates chuckle as the bell rings. Peter and Miles pack up, but Peter's attention is diverted by his phone. He sees a picture of MJ and Ned laughing at MIT. The real blow comes when he scrolls down and sees an image of MJ kissing her new boyfriend. Peter is visibly shaken by the emotional weight, struggling to process his feelings. Meanwhile, Miles, unaware, suggests they come up with a cool duo name like Spider Pals. Peter, distracted, responds weakly with Spider Brothers, masking his pain with humor. Miles senses something's off and gently reassures Peter, telling him he's more than just Spider-Man and that he has everything he needs. Peter nods, but doesn't fully internalize the reassurance. As they leave the classroom, Peter and Miles walk through the bustling campus. They're already in their Spider-Man suits beneath their clothes. They pass a corner and exchange a knowing glance before swinging into the air. As they swing through the city, Miles jokes about being on time for once at Joe's Pizza Shop, where they work part-time. Kamala Khan has been recently struggling with disturbing visions that blur the lines between her own reality. In her recent nightmares, she finds herself looking through someone else's eyes, watching a figure with powers similar to her struggle in a crumbling city. A distorted voice, Monica Rambeau's, reaches out to her, warning her of something urgent, but the dream abruptly cuts off, leaving Kamala confused and desperate for answers. The next day, Kamala seeks answers from Carol/Captain Marvel, expressing her concerns about the dreams and the figure she keeps seeing. Kamala convinces Carol to investigate, and together, they travel to Kamartaj, hoping to consult Dr. Strange or someone who might have insight into the strange occurrences. Upon their arrival at Kamartaj, Wong greets them, initially with sarcasm, but quickly shifts to a more serious tone as Kamala explains her situation. She reveals her bangle's role in her visions, and Wong quickly deduces that the bangle is more than just an heirloom. It's a powerful beacon, potentially attracting attention from across the multiverse. He warns Kamala to stop using it, fearing that her actions could destabilize the multiverse even further. Meanwhile, on the West Coast, Shang-Chi is with Bruce Banner/Hulk and She-Hulk, who have all been since testing and investigating the Ten Rings. When Wong urgently contacts him, Shang-Chi, despite his initial reluctance, Wong's serious tone makes him realize the rings may be tied to something bigger than them. He agrees to wait for Wong before they run any more tests on the rings. In the vibrant nation of Wakanda, Sam Wilson, now the new Captain America, stands before his team, deep in thought. Sam has been working endlessly since the events of Brave New World to bring together the currently scattered Avengers. As he watches his new recruits, including Joaquin Torres, the new Falcon, and Riri Williams Ironheart, Rhodey, also known as War Machine, making adjustments to their tech, a sense of heaviness hangs over him. Despite his determination, the weight of Steve Rogers' legacy looms large. As the team assembles, Sam expresses his worry over the absence of key Avengers like Doctor Strange and Thor, scattered across the galaxy. Riri suggests solving the problem with a portal or two, but Sam knows it's more complicated than that. Some heroes don't even want to be found. Shuri reassures him, acknowledging the difficulty of the task, but reminding him of his strength and heart. Shuri remains skeptical, questioning how Sam plans to succeed with such an incomplete team against unimaginable foes. Sam, however, is resolute. He may not have godlike strength or mystic powers, but he has the people around him, and together they will fight for each other and for the world. Sam acknowledges Wakanda's support, with Shuri offering the nation's technology and resources. Kang the Conqueror travels through the desolate Beyond Zone, where the haunting sound of distant screams grows louder with each step. These cries stir painful memories of his lost world, intensifying until they become a maddening presence, drowning him in sorrow and regret. The weight of these sounds forces him to stop, overwhelmed by the emotional toll they take on him, as fleeting images of his past life flash in his mind, a stark reminder of the devastation he's endured. Amid the overwhelming cacophony, Kang is confronted by the spectral figure of a child. The child's gaze is filled with sadness and unspoken accusations, causing Kang to hesitate. As the boy's eyes hold him, memories of happier times flood his mind, but they are quickly overshadowed by the guilt of his broken promises. Unable to bear the emotional weight, Kang collapses, his grief and regret consuming him. His voice trembles as he asks, "Am I dead?" The child shakes his head, and Kang, in a whisper, asks, "Do you know where I am?" The child responds cryptically, hinting at a deeper connection, speaking of how his mother said, "He is Kang's eyes." In disbelief, Kang mutters, "You're not real," and tries to distance himself from the apparition. But the boy's words cut through him like a blade, accusing him of failing his family. "Why didn't you come back for us?" the child demands, each word intensifying Kang's guilt. The child's voice trembles with sorrow as he sits beside Kang, accusing him of allowing their deaths. Kang, filled with desperation, pleads that he will find a way to bring them back, but the words feel empty, hollow. Just as the weight of Kang's failure threatens to consume him, a familiar voice echoes from the darkness, speaking of destiny. The voice abruptly cuts off, and Kang frantically calls out, "Ravonna?" But his search yields nothing but silence, leaving him alone in the endless void, trapped in the haunting shadows of his past. The energy from the probability storm crackles in the air, and something shifts within Kang. His mind fractures, breaking open as the storm gives him the power to manifest multiplicities, clones of himself, much like the distorted versions he once saw in the quantum realm. At first, it's disorienting, the clones materializing around him like ghostly reflections, each one a distorted, twisted version of Kang. They are all him, But not him. Their eyes filled with the same hunger for control that pulses within his own chest. The clones begin to multiply, their forms flooding the barren landscape, each one asserting dominance, fighting to claim control over the other. Kang is surrounded, trapped in a chaos of his own creation. His mind begins to unravel as the clones fight for supremacy, each one an echo of his worst impulses, each one a version of himself that he cannot escape. They mock him, taunt him with his failures, and as they clash, Kang finds himself locked in a battle not only with his physical clones, but with the demons of his own mind. The battle becomes more than physical. It is a metaphorical war, one that represents Kang's struggle to confront his deepest regrets. Every punch, every clash with his clones is a manifestation of his guilt, his inability to save his wife, his child, his civilization. The sheer weight of these failures becomes unbearable as the clones, now swarming like an uncontrollable tide, begin to reflect his darkest fears. They become the voices in his head, amplifying the terror and sorrow he's buried deep within. As the clones close in on him, Kang's mind is plunged into pure chaos. The storm's energy distorts reality, warping his perception until he is lost within a maelstrom of his own making. He is no longer sure what is real, his mind a fractured labyrinth of fractured selves. His past, his failures, his sins all blur together, becoming a cacophony of despair. The battle for control, both of his clones and his own sanity, becomes an endless cycle of violence and regret, each moment amplifying the horror of his mind's descent into madness. Back on Earth, 616, Miles and Peter's boss has warned them not to be late again, or they'll lose their jobs, and both of them desperately need the money to pay rent or face being kicked out of their apartments. As they swing through the bustling streets, they spot a petty crime in progress. A thief is attempting to steal from a store. In a coordinated effort, Peter and Miles intervene, skillfully subduing the thief, and eventually both of them end up getting fired. Peter and Miles exit Joe's Pizza, visibly upset. Their boss storms off, snatching the pizza boxes from their hands, leaving them alone in the busy city. Miles tries to lighten the mood with a joke, but Peter, clearly stressed, begins to vent his internal conflict. He accuses Miles of not taking their duties seriously enough, emphasizing the weight of responsibility that comes with being Spider-Man. Miles, taken aback by Peter's words, stands in silence, hurt. Peter, realizing the harshness of his outburst, pauses, torn between his own frustration and his concern for Miles. Miles, soft but firm, responds, "I'm sorry, Pete. I just want us to get through this together." His words reveal both vulnerability and resolve, showing he's ready to carry the burden alongside Peter. Peter hesitates for a moment, but ultimately, consumed by his own stress, including the personal issue of MJ having a new boyfriend, he turns away, disappearing into the crowd. Miles watches Peter walk away. Doctor Strange and Clea return to Camartage after their dangerous journey through the dark dimension, their faces marked with urgency and concern. Would have picked up right after Doctor Strange 3. They immediately seek out Wong, aware that time is critical. The two of them reveal the alarming details about the Council of Kangs, a multiversal force growing in power and posing a threat not just to their world, but to countless others across the multiverse. As they discuss the imminent threat, Doctor Strange's focus slips and he experiences a disturbing vision of the multiverse. He sees an interconnected web of worlds on the brink of destruction, each one ravaged by the Council of Kang's malevolent influence. The vision highlights how fragile their reality is and the extent of the damage caused by the Council's actions. Wong, observing the unfolding vision, becomes acutely aware of the immense threat they face and the stakes involved. Wong agrees that swift action is necessary but points out a major complication. The Avengers are scattered across the universe, with many members off-planet, leaving their team fractured and unable to respond quickly. Wong also raises the possibility that the beacon from Shang-Chi's rings might be signaling the Council of Kangs, a thought that immediately captures Doctor Strange's attention. As the conversation intensifies, the atmosphere outside changes dramatically. The sky darkens, and the air crackles with energy, as a mysterious shape begins to emerge from the stormy clouds. Clint Barton, having returned to his quiet hometown in Iowa for a brief respite, walks into town to grab a few items from the local shop, hoping for a moment of normalcy away from the chaos of his past as an Avenger. As he approaches the small store, he notices an unusual stillness in the air, the skies gradually darkening as if a storm were brewing. It's an eerie contrast to the calm day he had expected. His attention is drawn to the growing crowd of townspeople gathered outside, their eyes fixed on something in the sky. A mix of curiosity and unease builds within Clint as murmurs and whispers ripple through the crowd. Then, a scream pierces the air, followed by more panicked cries. People are running, scrambling to find shelter or escape whatever threat looms above. Clint's heart skips a beat as his instincts kick in. He steps outside, squinting against the oppressive air, and his gaze is immediately drawn upward. The terror in his chest deepens as he stares in horror at the sky, watching as an ominous, otherworldly presence takes shape, an image of pure malevolence, unlike anything he's ever seen. In LA, Simon Williams, also known as Wonder Man, is struggling with deep depression after the recent tragic loss of his fiancée in a car crash. In the days following the incident, Simon has isolated himself from his friends, including Wong, Shang-Chi, She-Hulk, and Hulk, unable to cope with the grief. His longtime best friend, Trevor Slattery, noticing Simon's emotional withdrawal, convinces him to join a group outing. They plan to watch a live Shakespeare play, Julius Caesar, in downtown Los Angeles. At the play, Simon begins to feel increasingly uneasy during the pivotal scene where Julius Caesar is surrounded by the senators and stabbed multiple times. As the brutal moment unfolds, Simon is overcome with anxiety, wincing with each stab, unable to separate his emotional pain from the scene on stage. Distressed and overwhelmed, Simon abruptly leaves the theater. He turns a corner into an alleyway, his anxiety rising fast. He puts on his headphones to block out the world, hoping for a reprieve from his grief. As Simon sits in silence, he suddenly notices something strange. The world has come to a standstill. Everyone on the street is frozen, staring up at the sky. Curiosity and dread fill him as he removes his headphones. What he sees sends a wave of terror through him. The arrival of the Council of Kangs in the 616 universe causes widespread panic and chaos. Immortus, utilizing his powerful telepathic abilities, projects a chilling message across the skies of Earth, declaring the Council's intention to purge the Earth for the sins of the Avengers. The Council accuses the Avengers of stealing the sacred relics, 10 rings and Niga bands, and sees the cleansing of Earth as a necessary punishment to preserve the stability of the multiverse. As the main trio's message reverberates across the globe, fear grips the citizens of Earth, 616. In various locations, individuals react in shock and disbelief. Hank, Janet, Hope are paralyzed by guilt, with Janet overwhelmed, convinced that the Council's arrival is her fault. Meanwhile, Scott Lang and his daughter Cassie watch Scott's apartment in San Francisco, while Peter Parker, Daredevil, and Moon Knight each witness the projection from their respective cities. Sam Wilson, Shuri, and Riri in Wakanda are also glued to the television as the broadcast spreads worldwide. The global panic escalates as cities descend into chaos. Social media and news outlets amplify the fear, causing widespread civil unrest. Emergency services are overwhelmed, and families struggle to find safety as law and order break down in the wake of the Council's terrifying message. Massive multiversal portals tear open in the sky, revealing the enormous fleet of the Council of Kangs. The sheer scale of the warships casts an ominous shadow over Earth, sending waves of fear and disbelief across the globe. As the ships strategically position themselves above key cities, their intimidating presence overwhelms the populace. The Council of Kangs warships hover menacingly over Earth's major cities, releasing devastating energy blasts that shatter skyscrapers and landmarks with terrifying ease. The attacks are immediate and catastrophic, as iconic structures crumble and entire cityscapes are reduced to rubble. Civilians, caught in the chaos, flee for their lives, running through streets filled with debris, their faces etched with fear and confusion. Elsewhere, Star-Lord, Peter Quill, and his grandfather sit in a tense, suffocating silence in the church, surrounded by a congregation staring blankly at their phones. The Council of Kangs has issued a cold, merciless warning. Earth's destruction is imminent. The pastor's attempts to guide the service toward prayer feel utterly futile, drowned by the looming terror that fills the room. There is no comfort to be found, only a growing sense of dread as the reality of their fate settles in. Peter feels the weight of the moment, the world crashing down on him as the quiet murmur of the congregation only amplifies the despair his grandfather watches him, silent, the sadness between them unspoken. Outside, the flash of an explosion ignites the horizon. Peter's heart sinks as he calculates the blast radius, a grim certainty settling over him. He turns to his grandfather, their eyes meeting in shared resignation. The explosion shatters the church windows, and the chaos erupts in an instant. People scramble for the door, desperate, but it's too late. There's nowhere to run. The blast wave crashes in, and the church, their last sanctuary, is obliterated in the devastation. Across the world, emergency services struggle to maintain control, overwhelmed by the scale of destruction and hampered by collapsed communication networks. The sky is darkened by smoke and flames as the full force of the invasion unfolds, leaving Earth's metropolises in ruins and the survivors scrambling to survive. Amidst the apocalyptic chaos, New York City's skyline is now crumbling under the might of the Council of Kang's relentless assault. The air seems to twist and crush as buildings buckle and collapse in on themselves, as if the very fabric of reality is being warped. The Kang's devastating ray beams strike the city, sending shockwaves through the ground and causing skyscrapers to tilt precariously before toppling, triggering massive explosions as they collide. The destruction spreads quickly, leaving the city in ruins. In the heart of the chaos, Spider-Man swings tirelessly through the wreckage, dodging falling debris and landmarks as he makes his way toward MIT to save Ned and MJ. The scene is a frantic race against time, with destruction all around him. Miles Morales, also swinging through the devastation, catches up to Peter, urging him to stop and get to safety. Miles pleads that continuing like this will only lead to their deaths. But Peter ignores him, his determination to save his friends outweighing the peril surrounding them. The two Spider-Men then look up in horror as the Kangs activate a second, even more powerful wave of destruction. The city is plunged deeper into chaos as buildings continue to fall, one after another, their flaming debris raining down on the streets below. The energy pulses grow increasingly violent, and firestorms ravage entire districts, consuming everything in their path. Amid the chaos, Miles is almost crushed by a falling skyscraper, but Peter manages to save him just in time. Meanwhile, Sam Wilson leads his team of Avengers, Shuri, Riri Williams, War Machine, Rhodey, and Joaquin Torres, through the skies in their spacecraft, witnessing the full scale of the Council of Kang's devastating assault on Earth. The massive warships block out the sun, unleashing a wave of destruction that obliterates entire cities. Buildings and landmarks are torn from their foundations and hurled into the sky, with entire districts disappearing into the warship's gravitational pull. The team can barely process the chaos below as the cities they once knew are reduced to ruin in seconds. As their spacecraft struggles to stay in control, the Avengers realize they've been caught in the warship's gravitational field, spiraling uncontrollably through the sky. The destruction below intensifies as buildings, landmarks, and people are sucked into the vacuum, tumbling through the air toward the approaching warships. Their ship is thrown across continents, careening from Wakanda and plummeting toward Tokyo. The Avengers' ship is violently tossed, battling against the overwhelming pull of the warships as it heads toward the devastated city. The warship's relentless assault casts an enormous shadow over Tokyo, where entire buildings are ripped from the ground and sucked into the sky. As the Avengers' spacecraft approaches, they navigate through a deadly storm of falling skyscrapers, violent tremors, and energy blasts from the warships, which incinerate everything in their path. Shuri and Torres work tirelessly to steer the craft, narrowly avoiding disaster as the city crumbles beneath them. Tokyo is engulfed in flames, and the Avengers struggle to hold on as the destruction continues. On the West Coast, Cassie, Janet, Hope, and Hank are killed, victims of the unrelenting chaos that has torn the world apart. In the heart of the destruction, Scott finds Cassie, cradles her in his arms, his tears mingling with the dust and ash that surrounds them. In a matter of hours, billions are killed as the destruction continues on an unimaginable scale. Most of Earth is transformed into a post-apocalyptic wasteland, with a few remaining nations easily conquered by the Council of Kangs. The once thriving planet is left in utter devastation, with skeletons and charred corpses littering the streets. The fires from the initial attacks burn so intensely that soot and smoke begin to block out the sun, casting the world into perpetual darkness. A nuclear fallout ensues, ushering in a deadly winter, further exacerbating the catastrophe. After the Council of Kang's devastating invasion, the surviving Avengers, world leaders, and remnants of S.H.I.E.L.D. retreated to Wakanda, the only sanctuary untouched by the destruction. With communication systems shattered and the Avengers scattered, he sends out a desperate distress call, urging any surviving heroes to return. One by one, they began to arrive: Thor, Love, Adam Warlock, Rocket, Groot, Phyla-Vell, Cosmo, Shang-Chi, Wonder Man, Wong, America Chavez, Doctor Strange, Clea, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Daredevil, Punisher, Ant-Man, Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, Star-Lord, Captain Marvel, Ms. Marvel, She-Hulk, and Hulk. The rest are either dead or lost to the chaos. In Wakanda, the Avengers gathered in silence, weighed down by grief and the devastating losses they had suffered at the hands of the Council of Kangs. Sam Wilson steps forward and reminds the team that while the Kangs may have shattered their world, they hadn't broken their spirits. Sam's words reignited a spark within the Avengers, urging them to rise again, as they had in the past when faced with insurmountable odds. He emphasized that they were not defeated and that now, more than ever, it was time to take the fight to the Kangs. Sam, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange declared that the Avengers would no longer wait for the Kangs to strike again. They would lead the charge. Armed with the powerful 10 rings and Negabands, Sam urges the team to use these weapons, which the Kangs sought to control, to turn the tide in their favor. This battle wasn't just about revenge. It was about protecting the future of the world and their loved ones. With his shield raised, Sam's rallying cry filled the team with determination, and the Avengers are ready to strike back. Sam, Doctor Strange, and Spider-Man organized the Avengers into 3 teams, with Spider-Man leading the street-level team to infiltrate the main Kang fortress built on the ruins of Washington, D.C. There, the main trio, Immortus, Ramatut, and the Centurion, are using the fortress as a conduit to merge the 10 rings and Negabands into a weapon capable of reshaping reality. The Avengers need to stop them before it's too late. Teams break down. Earthbound team, target: Immortus, objective: destroy Damocles' base and keep the Negabands safe. Captain America leader: Captain Marvel, Hulk, Wonder Man, Black Panther/Shuri, Ms. Marvel, Star-Lord, She-Hulk, Rocket Raccoon, Groot, Falcon. Street-level team, target: Ramatut, objective: destroy Ramatut's fortress and the conduit. Spider-Man leader: Miles Morales, Daredevil, Punisher,
Ant-Man, Hawkeye,
Kate Bishop, Ironheart, War Machine. Cosmic team, target: the Centurion, objective: keep the 10 rings safe. Doctor Strange leader:
Clea, Wong,
America Chavez, Thor,
Love,
Shang-Chi, Adam Warlock, Phyla-Vell, Cosmo. As Captain America leads the Earthbound team towards Immortus warship in space, their mission is to destroy the Damocles base and secure the Negabands, preventing Immortus from harnessing their immense power. However, Earth's remaining leaders, distrustful of the Avengers' ability to handle the threat, secretly activate Earth's final defense: Sentinels built from the adamantium of a dead Celestial. The Sentinels, designed to neutralize superpowered threats, are unleashed against Immortus. It's revealed that General Ross had authorized the program, viewing the Avengers as a potential danger to global security. As the team heads into space, Rocket lightens the mood with a familiar joke, asking who hasn't been to space. Captain America raises his hand, prompting Rocket to tease him about being a space virgin. Upon reaching Immortus warship, the team learns the true power of the Negabands, which surpass the 10 rings when used correctly. Immortus believes they are the holiest relic in Kang's mythos. The battle rages on between Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and their street-level team as they face off against Ramatut and his Kang army as they try to break into the fortress. The battle intensifies, with Daredevil and Punisher fighting fiercely to hold their ground. Daredevil uses every ounce of his training, relying on his senses and reflexes to dodge and counter as the Kang variants close in from all directions. The fight reaches a fever pitch as they both become surrounded, outnumbered, but never yielding. In the final moments, Daredevil summons every remaining ounce of strength, leaping into a series of rapid strikes that incapacitate the last wave of variants. His breath is ragged, his body bruised and battered, as he is engulfed by the many Kang variants. During the chaos, Ramatut strikes Spider-Man with a powerful blow from his Spectre weapon, sending the hero flying across the battlefield. Spider-Man, who is badly beat up and bloody, struggles to get back on his feet, but his injuries are severe and he collapses, barely able to move. Fueled by rage and desperation, Miles Morales steps forward, enraged and determined to confront Ramatut. He challenges the villain with defiance in his eyes, refusing to back down despite the overwhelming danger. Ramatut, unimpressed, mocks Miles' bravery, finding his actions both foolish and amusing. Spider-Man, barely conscious, watches in horror as Miles stands firm against the tyrant. He reaches out weakly, shouting for Miles to stop, but it's too late. Miles is impaled by Ramatut's scepter and killed. Spider-Man watches in horror, unable to move. Doctor Strange and Clea lead the cosmic team in a battle against the Centurion in many different realms, including the Gap Junction. During this fight, Love and Phyla-Vell form a deep bond, their friendship growing stronger as they battle together. The Centurion is initially overpowered by Doctor Strange, Clea, Thor, and the others, particularly due to the power of Shang-Chi's 10 rings. As the fight escalates, the entire group is transported to the quantum realm. Despite the Centurion's strength, he manages to kill most of the team, except for Doctor Strange, Thor, and Shang-Chi, who has leveled up with the aid of the 10 rings. In a moment of defiance, Shang-Chi prevents the Centurion from claiming his father's rings, shouting back in resistance. As Clea succumbs to her injuries, she uses her blade to create a portal back to Earth 616, allowing the surviving heroes a chance to escape. However, the Centurion steals Doctor Strange's sling ring, an important multiversal relic similar to the 10 rings and Negabands. Doctor Strange convinces the team to leave him behind so he can pursue Centurion through the multiverse, hoping to stop him before it's too late. Along the way, Doctor Strange encounters the Fantastic Four, who inform Doctor Strange of an impending catastrophe that could threaten the survival of his friends and the entire multiverse. Doctor Strange manages to reclaim his sling ring just as the Centurion escapes to Immortus's warship. The Fantastic Four introduce Strange to the TVA, warning him that something monumental is about to occur. They ask for his help, as only he may be able to prevent the disaster and ensure his friend's survival. During the intense battle in space, the Earthbound team suffers heavy casualties, with most of the Avengers dying, including Black Panther, Shuri, Star-Lord, and Captain Marvel. Immortus and his army succeed in retrieving one of the Negabands, and a desperate fight ensues for the second band. The heroes, battered and outnumbered, realize they cannot hold on much longer. In a moment of self-sacrifice, Wonder Man decides to give his life for the cause, believing that his late fiancée would have wanted him to do something great, even though he had never believed in himself. Grabbing the second Negaband, he urges the others to escape and activates its power, fusing it with his already immense ionic energy. Transformed into a near Super Saiyan state, Wonder Man charges at Immortus and his fleet of Kang warships, intending to destroy them and the Negabans in one final kamikaze-like act. Immortus, using the other Negaband, charges at Wonder Man, and the collision sends shockwaves through the galaxy. When the debris settles, Immortus stands victorious, having used the Negabands to enhance his power. The Kang variants watch in awe as the surviving heroes flee, realizing the catastrophic loss and the immense power now at Immortus's disposal. At Ramatut's fortress, the scene unfolds with Ramatut presenting the severed heads of the fallen Avengers to Immortus, a symbol of his victory. Immortus watches coldly as Ramatut, like a sycophant, grovels at his feet, eager to please his master. Despite Ramatut's outward display of loyalty, hints emerge of Immortus's Machiavellian nature as he subtly manipulates Ramatut, turning the weak-minded ruler against Centurion. Immortus, now empowered by the Negabands, seethes with anger over Centurion's failure to capture the 10 rings, his ambitions growing ever larger. Centurion, feeling cornered and betrayed by both Ramatut and Immortus, tries to strike back in a desperate act of defiance. However, Immortus's newfound power, thanks to the Negabands, proves overwhelming. With a sadistic grin, Immortus absorbs Centurion's energy, consuming both his essence and his soul, making him even more powerful. The rest of the Council of Kangs, including Ramatut, watch in stunned silence as Immortus quashes the attempted coup, solidifying his dominance. Ramatut, now completely subjugated, cowers before Immortus and pledges his undying loyalty to him as the true Kang Prime. The Council, fearing Immortus's power, follows suit, bowing and chanting Kang Prime in a creepy display of submission. Immortus's rise to power is chillingly Machiavellian, marked by his cold manipulation and ruthless consolidation of control. With his new power, Immortus declares that the 10 rings are the final piece needed to ascend to an Omega-level being. As his yellow eyes gleam with a sadistic laugh, he envisions his ultimate victory. Meanwhile, in a somber montage, Wakanda is left in ruins, and Captain America rallies the surviving Avengers and what's left of humanity. They retreat to an underground bunker, a secret facility built by Tony Stark for just such a doomsday event, as the threat of Immortus's reign looms ever closer. Wakanda is left in ruins, and Captain America rallies the surviving Avengers and what's left of humanity. They retreat to an underground bunker, a secret facility built by Tony Stark for just such a doomsday event, as the threat of Immortus's reign looms ever closer. Kang the Conqueror finds himself trapped in a chaotic confrontation with his clones in the Beyond Zone. His emotional stability unravels when one clone utters the name Ravonna, sparking an uncontrollable spiral of rage and despair. As his mind breaks down, thousands of clones converge on him, overwhelming him until the last shred of light fades. Kang reaches out in desperation, but is consumed by darkness of the realm. Over a black screen, Janet's voice calls out, "Who is Kang?" This marks the beginning of Kang's descent into an eerie part of the Beyond Zone where Kang's mind is unraveling, and we finally get to see his past. In this abyss, Kang's terror intensifies as he falls through darkness, surrounded by the haunting memories he has tried to suppress. Flashbacks of his childhood with Ravonna, running hand in hand through a wheat field, fill his mind, quickly followed by scenes of massacres he committed, exterminating timelines and killing innocent civilians across multiple worlds. The flashbacks become more intense, showing Kang's deep love for Ravonna as teenagers and their eventual marriage. However, his love is overshadowed by his brutal acts of violence, including the slaughter of many different variants of the Avengers. The abyss around him grows darker, and Kang's cries for help echo into the void as he recalls moments of tenderness with Ravonna, like holding her pregnant belly. Yet, his atrocities continue to haunt him, with images of him murdering more innocent lives and the variants of those he once cherished. Kang's emotional agony deepens as he plunges further into the probability storm. As he falls, the last bit of light extinguishes, and he is enveloped by the cold, isolating dark. He realizes that if he is to escape this mental prison and save reality, he must first conquer his mind. Allowing his demons to consume him, Kang finally makes peace with the idea that his actions, though horrific, were necessary for the survival of the multiverse. He remembers his love for Ravonna and, as everything around him bursts into flames, he faces the truth. His war with many different Avengers and his destruction of countless universes was all to prevent a greater catastrophe at the hands of the Council of Kangs. His hands are stained with the blood of trillions, yet he feels no other choice but to continue down this path of destruction. He must save the multiverse from his variants. As Kang faces the consequences of his decisions, his mind returns to the moment he last saw Ravonna. The two argued bitterly before his departure to wage war on the other Kangs. Ravonna begged him to stay, reminding him that fate had a different path for them, but Kang refused to listen, driven by paranoia and the belief that he must protect their future at any cost. Through the powers of the Beyond Zone, Kang astral projects himself to relive that moment, pleading with his former self to stop and cherish what he had. But his former self leaves, and Ravonna is left weeping alone. The vision leaves Kang broken and consumed by regret. Kang's journey continues as he is ambushed and captured by the Council of Kangs, his trial held in a sadistic amphitheater where the other Kangs revel in his misery. Immortus, Ramatut, and Centurion sentence him to exile, a punishment which Kang accepts with defiance, though he pleads for his wife's safety. Immortus coldly informs him that Ravonna and his kingdom will meet him in the afterlife, further crushing Kang's spirit. As he is led to his execution, Kang remembers moments of tenderness with Ravonna, when he held her pregnant belly and when he leapt from his throne to catch her as she fell. Just as he faces exile, Kang makes a daring escape, blasting off into the multiverse, hands outstretched in a desperate attempt to save what he once loved. Kang's journey reaches a devastating conclusion as he crash-lands back in his destroyed world. His kingdom is in ruins, the wheat fields and apple trees burned, leaving only the skeleton of his former life. Terrified, he approaches the site where Ravonna's body is hanged, barely recognizable in its horrific state. His grief overwhelms him, and he collapses, digging her grave in the blackened earth. As he buries her, he speaks through his tears, telling her to wait for him in the shadow of the trees. But as Kang mourns, the Council of Kangs appears once again. In his despair, Kang reaches out to create a circle in the dirt, symbolizing his goal for a singular, perfect timeline, his timeline, free of the chaos he believes the other Kangs have wrought. His vengeance and resolve grow as he stands, sand slipping from his fists, facing the Council, with eyes filled with fury. Kang is recaptured, but not before Immortus rips the tracking beacon from his chair, mocking him. The Council begins the exiling procedure, their devices poised to send Kang to the quantum realm. As they fire, Kang's anger erupts, yelling that he will find them, vowing vengeance as his chair is sabotaged. The soundtrack swells as he struggles, but soon, the scene shifts. In the present, Kang sobs, alone and surrounded by his clones, who silently watch him. Clutching the necklace he once gave to Ravonna, Kang's tears fall onto it, but as they do, his emotional pain transforms into determination. His probability selves/clones begin to merge with him, chanting his name, Kang.
Kang.
Kang. Their cries fuel him, and Kang ascends out of the probability storm, rapidly moving through dimensions as his suit repairs itself. His power grows as he absorbs the essence of the multiverse, eventually transforming into the one true Kang Prime, aka Beyonder Kang, an all-powerful being, ready to exact his vengeance on the Council of Kangs. Kang's emotional journey is one of profound tragedy and existential transformation. From a man torn by guilt and loss, he becomes a being of immense power, consumed by a desire for vengeance. Kang and his legions of clones are now headed to Earth 616 to destroy the Council of Kangs once and for all. The sky above is a haunting green, acid rain falling relentlessly as lightning cracks through the toxic clouds. The world below is a nuclear winter, a scene painted like Dante's Inferno, where thunder rumbles ominously. Captain America, Sam Wilson, has gathered the last surviving Avengers and remnants of humanity in a massive underground bunker designed by Tony Stark for global disasters. The remaining Avengers include Thor, Ant-Man, Spider-Man, Shang-Chi, Ms. Marvel, and Hulk. It is presumed that Doctor Strange perished while pursuing the Centurion. Thor is devastated by the loss of his family, wishing for his own death, but he remains steadfast in his mission to protect the Ten Rings, refusing to let the Kangs seize them. The group knows their time is running out. The Council of Kangs will soon arrive, drawn by the beacon from the Ten Rings. The legions of Kangs eventually surround the bunker. Captain America makes his final stand. With Shang-Chi, wearing the Ten Rings, and the rest of the Avengers by his side, he faces the encroaching legions. Standing tall in defiance, they are ready to die protecting the last remnants of humanity. The moment is eerily reminiscent of the battle at the Hot Gates, with Ramatut now acting as a Mortis emissary, having merged his armor with Centurion's remains. Ramatut demands they bow before Kang Prime, threatening their destruction. Captain America offers his life in exchange for the other's survival, but Immortus sees his bravery as both foolish and impressive. Instead, Immortus offers Sam a dark choice: to serve as their messenger of death, using the Ten Rings to execute superheroes and mutants across the multiverse. Immortus offers Sam magic and cosmic powers, claiming that Captain America's legacy is nothing compared to Steve Rogers. In a moment of agony, Captain America looks at the shield once held by Steve Rogers, now tightly grasped in his own hands. As time seems to slow, Sam's memories flash before him. Smiling faces of the original Avengers. Would Steve understand? With his head bowed, Sam stands tall once more, casting aside the shield and defying Immortus' demand. Avengers assemble, he yells, signaling the remaining Avengers to launch a kamikaze-style attack. Red Wing, activated from Sam's suit, sends Immortus coordinates to him. Sam, fueled by determination, rises into the air, shield in hand. He hurls the shield toward Immortus, but Ramatut intercepts with a barrage of energy blasts. Despite the efforts to stop it, the shield grazes Immortus' head, throwing him violently backward. For a brief moment, doubt flickers in Ramatut's eyes as Immortus, now bleeding, rises in fury, demanding the Kangs finish the Avengers. Captain America falls, gravely wounded, unable to stop the slaughter of his friends. As he reaches out to Ant-Man, the dying hero's tears reflect his guilt. "This is all my fault," Ant-Man admits, but Captain America reassures him, "You fought like a true Avenger. Your daughter would be proud." Meanwhile, Immortus fights to seize the Ten Rings from Shang-Chi, delivering a fatal blow. As Shang-Chi falls, his body convulses under the mystical energy, and the light in his eyes fades, and the rings fall off his dead body. Immortus, eyes burning with the hope of ultimate power, steps forward, stretching his hands toward the Ten Rings as their beacon grows louder with every passing second. The air hums with energy, and Immortus' voice rings out, commanding, "Come to me, my relics." His words seem to shake the very ground beneath him. As he advances, the Ten Rings begin to lift, vibrating with power, their movements almost as if responding to his call. Then, in a sudden surge of energy, they shoot upward into the nuclear winter skies, disappearing into the dark, toxic clouds above. The ground shakes violently, a strange rumble building as Ant-Man looks to the skies. A figure descends from the clouds, almost godlike. Kang the Conqueror, now empowered as Kang Prime, hovers down from the nuclear winter storm, the Ten Rings glowing with intense energy, the beacon now eerily dim. Ant-Man, weak and on the verge of death, points at him, whispering, "It's him." "That's Kang." Ramatut, horrified, cries out, "The Conqueror." Immortus and the rest of the council are paralyzed with fear as Kang, now wielding unimaginable power, hovers above them. Immortus is stunned when Kang Prime suddenly hovers over them, surrounded by his vast army of clones, who snarl like wild beasts. Immortus sneers at Kang Prime, asking if he has returned to be buried by them, to which Kong Prime responds he has returned to burn them out of time forever. Ramatut, standing alongside Immortus, mocks the moment, questioning whether Kong Prime likes what they've done with the place.
Kong Prime's only answer is, it ends. Tonight.
Immortus, ever confident, vows to erase Kong from all timelines and existence, even going as far as to claim that history will forget Kong and his world. He cruelly taunts Kong by revealing that Ravana, Kang's beloved, was tortured and degraded by them. This infuriates Kong Prime, who unleashes a legion of his clones, forming a protective barrier around him. He proclaims, "Now you all will know that I am the Kong who wins." With his clones, Kong Prime charges at Immortus and the rest of the council. The great multiverse war has begun. Kong Prime, who commands his clones from the Beyond Zone, who overwhelm the Kong Council, tearing them apart in a brutal, bloody battle. Kong Prime faces off with Immortus and Ramatut in an epic confrontation that spans across countless multiverses, reminiscent of Doctor Strange's journey through the multiverse. Their battle grows so intense that it begins to destabilize reality itself. Meanwhile, Loki struggles to hold onto the timelines as they collapse. Desperate, the TVA, Doctor Strange, the Fantastic Four, Deadpool, Wolverine, Nick Cage's Ghost Rider, and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man arrive, attempting to save the remaining Avengers in a vessel known as the Ark, a life raft created to protect essential beings. Captain America tragically dies before the Ark can save him, but Ms. Marvel and Spider-Man are rescued. Reed Richards warns that time is running out and that the Ark is their only hope for survival. As Earth-616 is consumed by incursions, the TVA transports the survivors to a safe space between realities. Meanwhile, Kong Prime and Immortus continue their battle, with Immortus wielding Ms. Marvel's Niga bands and Kong Prime possessing Shang-Chi's 10 rings. Their fight takes them through and around the multiversal tree, causing the very fabric of the multiverse to deteriorate due to the immense power of the relics. Kong Prime delivers a crushing blow to Immortus, sending him hurtling through the multiversal branches. Immortus recovers and launches another assault, but their collision shatters timelines and creates a devastating storm that tears apart universes. As the battle reaches its climax, they fight in midair, locked in a relentless struggle, rising higher and higher through the branches of Yggdrasil, oblivious to the destruction they cause. At the top of the tree, Kong Prime lands a series of brutal strikes that leave Immortus stunned and vulnerable. In a final, thunderous clash, Kong Prime kills Immortus by choking him with the timelines and then tearing him apart with the Niga bands. The multiverse begins to collapse entirely as the decay of Yggdrasil spreads, and the Avengers aboard the Ark watch helplessly as universes collide, leading to their inevitable destruction. Reed Richards struggles to keep the Ark afloat, but the power is fading fast. Loki's powers are absorbed by Kong Prime in a failed attempt to revive the timelines. In a desperate final act, Beyonder Kong uses his power to take control of the Ark and creates a protective force field around it. He then merges the Niga bands and 10 rings into a device capable of reshaping reality. However, instead of restoring the multiverse, Kong Prime fuses all the remaining universes into a singular timeline called Battleworld. Using the combined relics, he reshapes the Void into Chronopolis, a new reality built from the ruins of Earth-616, Earth-838, Earth-601, and countless others. The surviving heroes aboard the Ark, including the Fantastic Four, Deadpool, both Spider-Man and the Avengers, are imprisoned by Kong Prime. In the newly formed Battleworld, Kong strides through a stunning landscape of vibrant rose fields. A sense of calm and fulfillment washes over him as he walks, his fingers brushing lightly against the delicate petals. Each touch seems to evoke a deep connection to his past, to the kingdom that was once his, but had been reduced to ashes by his variants. Now, in this new world, his domain stands tall, breathtakingly beautiful, restored to something even greater than before. The air is filled with the soft, echoing strains of distant music, adding to the peaceful atmosphere. The serene landscape is bathed in the glow of a twin sunset, the sky painted in brilliant colors, casting a warm, golden light across the fields. Everything around him is exquisitely beautiful, a perfect reflection of his vision of a new reality. As Kang moves closer to a quiet spot in the field, he sees a woman standing with her back to him. She turns, revealing herself to be Ravana, still pregnant, her smile radiant as she gazes at him. She holds out her hand to him, a gesture of love and welcome. Kang, moved by the sight, gently takes her hand and presents her with the rose he picked from the field. "You came back," Ravana says softly, her voice filled with warmth. Kang replies with a tender smile, "For all time. Always my love." Ravana steps into his arms, and they share a passionate kiss, a moment of pure joy and connection. As they embrace, the screen slowly fades to black. The end. What did you think? I think it's a pretty cool fanfic. Obviously, this is not the official script, but it is a good story. Ex-readers have added context that there is no source and the original poster is a known fabricator. But hey, it's all in good fun. And the majority of comments on X agree that it would have been a dope movie.